optimized confirmation page, hammer them emails, and a dialed sales team. Those are the free back-end selling systems we use to brainwash prospects into buying 5K offers at a 60+% sales conversion rate. Here's a sales tracker for October, where you converted at around 61%. Here's a sales tracker for September, where you converted at 59%. And if you're a coach or consultant running an info business and you struggle with low show rates, long sales cycles, sales reps saying that leads are cold and calls turning into education sessions, those aren't sales problems, right? Those are back-end selling failures. Because once we fixed our backend, we went from doing around 60 to 70K per month with this particular info offer to collecting over 210K cash just in January. And in today's video, I'm going to break down the free backend selling systems that get us the best client results in the market. So backend selling is everything that happens between intent and decision, right? Between booking the call and actually showing up for it, between opting in for a webinar and actually showing up, between buying low tickets and ascending to high tickets, and between sending a DM and actually paying for the service or for the offer or whatever the fuck you sell, right? Now, and if you do nothing in that window, doubt fills the vacuum, right? So the purpose of the free backend selling systems is to educate and warm up our prospects so they show up ready to buy, right? And for that, we have free systems starting with the optimized confirmation page. Because one thing you have to realize is that when someone books a call with you for your high ticket info offer or high ticket service, they don't start celebrating, right? They don't throw a fucking party. They don't open up the Dom Perignon bottle. They immediately start doing research. They ask if it's legit, if it's a scam, why is it so expensive, especially if you're selling an offer that's 5K plus. What if it doesn't work? Like, how fucked can they get when working with you? And what do the people say on Reddit? What do they say on Trustpilot? You get the point, right? So all that's to say is that due diligence isn't optional anymore, right? The days where prospect bought 5K offers without asking questions are long gone. So the only question is, do they do it with you or without you, right? And that obviously you'd rather have them do it with us so we can actually brainwash them into showing up warm and ready to give us some money, right? Because why not? We obviously all want to make some money. And to do that, we're using what I call controlling the narrative, right? So instead of fighting the skepticism, we build a confirmation page that embraces it. And the point isn't to have thanks for booking a call page, right? The point is to engineer strategic content consumption flow so leads show up warm, educated, and already halfway sold. Now, and there's really two parts playing into this. The first part being the front-end VSL and the second part being the confirmation page. But the purpose of a good VSL page is basically to set the stage for steps further down the funnel, right? It should educate prospects, handle objections, and frame expectations. So by the time prospects book a call, they're not just curious, but they're informed and interested, right? That's basically all a VSL has to do, aside from obviously convert them into booking a call. And the second part, obviously, is the confirmation page, which is the actual back-end selling system itself. But the VSL still plays into it, so I thought I'd put it here. Anyway, I digress. So the way we structure a confirmation page is that we have a pattern interrupt headline, right? It's telling them, wait, they're not done yet, even though they just booked a call. And then we walk them through the 4 steps we wanted to take, which basically is to first watch a short video. And this is very, very important, right? The main video isn't hype or a sales pitch or motivation, because no one really gives a shit about that, right? No one will show up just because you tell them to show up. So the confirmation video has to do 5 simple things. It has to confirm their action, basically affirm their decision, telling them that they made the right choice. If they're going to get the dream outcome, that this is the right path to the dream outcome. And we're going to tell them that will help them do research, address the worst case scenarios, right? Basically, how fucked can they get from working with the offer owner or buying our offer? Then we want to direct them to the rest of the page and give them highly believable reasons of why showing up is urgent, right? And this is very important as well, right? No one will show up just because you tell them to. No one will show up just because you remind them of the call, right? People are busy, especially if you're selling to a more sophisticated audience, which we are not in that case, but they still need highly believable reasons to show up. And for this specific offer, which is a branded e-com offer, we're basically telling them that the opportunity won't last forever, right? And it's pretty obvious if you're in the space yourself, but they literally don't know, right? So just by us making it clear and positioning it in a way where they're still early and that the longer the wait, the harder it gets, we're giving them a highly believable reason of why showing up is urgent, right? Why fixing the problem is urgent and why becoming rich is urgent, right? Because it fucking is. Anyway, we prompt them to download WhatsApp and expect a call because we obviously have our sellers reaching out, which looks like this kind of in a WhatsApp group. Then we make them accept the calendar invite just to boost the show rate a little bit. And we also make them go through some social proof, right? A few case studies. And an optimized confirmation page basically is crucial because it's your first real chance to set expectations, build trust, pre-handle objections, and answer questions. So those are kind of the 4 pillars of the back-end selling systems. And when the system is done right, you basically get higher show rates, shorter sales calls, because the people don't show up to get educated because they already are, right? They show up to actually make the decision. And that in turn means more one-call closes, less convincing, and better buyers in general, right? Because the expectations are set properly. Now, but because every single prospect has a different preferred way of consuming information, we don't just send them to a video and call it a day, right? We also have some hammer them emails, which I, by the way, learned from Jeremy Haynes, so definitely shout out to him. Gotta give credibility where it's due. Now, and the reason the hammer them emails play such a big role in our back-end sales process is because most people pre-call emails are just calendar reminders, right? They remind timing, they don't influence the decision, they don't answer questions, they don't create urgency, and they definitely don't increase priority, right? Because the simple truth is reminders don't sell and information does. So that's exactly what our hammer them email sequence does, right? Our hammer them pre-call email sequence is designed to make the sales call a priority. And priority happens when we give the prospects highly believable reasons why they need to show up and show up now and give us some money, right? So every pre-call email we send falls into one of four categories. Number one being questions, because I can fucking guarantee you that every single one of your prospects has questions when they show up on a sales call and before it as well. Questions like, how does it work? Who is it for? Why is it different? What happens on the call, right? Because the truth is 99% of your prospects have been on sales calls and maybe 90% of them have been burned by some guru, right? So they want to know why it's different, what happens on the call, will I get hard sold, or will someone actually help me? So that's what we cover in the questions part of it, right? Then we have the second layer questions, because when you answer one question, another automatically appears, right? So when someone asks, how does it work? And we're telling them that they have to build an e-com store, a branded e-com store, they're obviously wondering how that works specifically, right? How will they get traffic to it? How do they actually build the converting product page? How do they pick the right product? And if you don't answer layer two, the uncertainty stays, right? Then we obviously have objections, and some general objections every human being has is price, time, risk. And will this work for me, right? This also ties into the free sales you have to make when selling a high ticket offer. And the fourth pillar is expectations, because bad expectations create bad buyers. Like, you obviously don't fucking want someone in your program who thinks they're going to be a millionaire 2 months from now, right? Because they're going to dispute the payment, they're going to leave a bad review. They're just going to be a pain in the ass, like, realistically, right? So the emails here cover the timeline, the effort required, what success really looks like, and what failure looks like. Now, this entire email sequence is structured to take them through the 5 stages of awareness, all the way from unaware to most aware, and that is done by, again, building awareness, setting expectations, handling objections, and creating urgency, right? Now, and here we have the actual pre-call email sequence that we run for this offer, doing over 200K per month at a 60% close rate, right? And one thing that is absolutely key with these emails is that you have to position the guru as being the same as them, just a few years ahead in the journey, right? Because that's who they realistically want to work with, right? And that's how human psychology works. We trust the people who are the same as us the most, and that's the transformation they want, right? From old DJ Khaled to fucking new DJ Khaled. And the way we achieve this in this specific email sequence is that we have a confirmation email, basically affirming their decision and removing perceived limitations, as well as giving them the calendar link so they obviously can add it to the calendar and therefore boost our show rate. Very simple, very short email. The second email is an FAQ email where you obviously build trust via relatability. Answer the top 3 questions prospects ask on sales calls, right? This ties back to this entire thing. And obviously pre-handle their objections in the process as well. Now, the third email is the story of X, which is a case study email. You know the drill. We leverage some story selling while answering their questions and also handling the no money objection, right? Which is a really big objection if you're selling anything biz up related realistically. Email 4 is some more objection handling where you remove their skill limitation via our unique mechanism. Tell an isomorphic story. Now, and this is very fucking important, right? When you tell the story of the offer owner, it has to be relatable for obvious reasons, right? Else they won't relate to it and they won't trust us. So what we're going to want to do is not talk about the shit they can't relate to, right? We don't want to talk about the offer owner driving a fucking Lambo, because chances are they're not driving a Lambo themselves. Instead, we want to talk about something they can actually relate to, which in this case is, I used to think I needed to have it all figured out before I could launch, right? Once I learned how to run profitable ads, then I could start. Once I build a store that converts like crazy, then I'd launch, right? That's shit they can actually relate to, and that's shit that builds trust. At the same time, we also reframe their objection into procrastination, basically telling them that not taking action is just procrastination, and they don't have to be ready to take action, which is true. Email 5 is an educational email where you basically share a tip or a strategy they can use immediately. In our case, that's a commitment mindset, which doesn't 100% apply to this description here. But at the same time, it's very good, right? Because we're building trust, basically telling them that I was the same. Like when I first started ecom, I didn't know shit. And we're also positioning action as the only solution to our problem. Again, planting the seeds in their head to take action later in the sales process, right? Now, email 6 is another story of X, where we again leverage story selling, answer their questions, and handle not the no money objection, but the 9 to 5 / time objection, because that's also a big one if you're selling biz up. Email 7 is the cost of inaction email, where you actually break down the cost of inaction in tangible numbers, right? Because it's really fucking hard to deny numbers. At the same time, that shows how our solution trumps the usual path and positions inaction as an excuse, right? The way we do it here is that we basically do the math of them staying on their current path for the next 40 years, which amounts to 90K hours. That's 90K hours trading time for money at a rate that barely keeps up with inflation. At the same time, we're comparing that with students who are absolutely crushing it with ecom, basically showing them how our solution is a logical choice, right? Which it is, because who the fuck wants to stay broke? Now, email 8 is what I call unique mechanism selling, where we sell them on our unique mechanism, which is branded ecom, basically by attaching limitations to other solutions, in our case, traditional dropshipping, and showing how our specific solution, which is branded ecom, doesn't have the limitations, right? Now, email 9 is the final reminder, where you remind them of the call, attach the dream outcome to them showing up, create urgency by saying we're already in the meeting. Because when the system is installed properly, calls stop being education, show rates increase, sales cycles shorten, pay inflows increase, and reps become cashless, right? And that's exactly what you fucking want, right? The sales team should have an easy time closing because the marketing team actually does its fucking job. Now, and speaking of the sales team, that's actually the third backend selling system we use to consistently close at 60+%. And to be fair, I don't manage any backend sales operations. Matter of fact, I don't manage any sales operations because my boy Oscar does it and he's an absolute killer at it. So I definitely got to give credit where it's due. But that doesn't change the fact that I know what the fuck our sales team is doing, right? And again, it basically comes down to these 5 pillars, with pillar 1 being reviewing the application properly, right? It actually sounds pretty fucking stupid, but a lot of salespeople don't do it. They just skim it, right? And that's a mistake because the application always tells a story, right? It tells you why the person applied now, what they've already tried, what they're emotionally frustrated about, what outcome they actually want, and where they sound unsure or hesitant, right? Again, the application tells you what buttons you need to push in order to convert, if you know how to read it. So you definitely got to get your sales team to read it, right? Pillar 2 is identifying where the prospect is mentally, right? Because some prospects are curious, some are researching, others are comparing or skeptical, and some are almost ready, while others are burned by past offers, right? A good sales rep or a setter doesn't treat everyone the same because they simply aren't. Again, pretty fucking simple, but no one does it. And pillar 3 is sending tailored pre-call value, right? And not checking in text. Because our reps will never text that they're just checking in for the call tomorrow, right? They'll either send a short selfie video, which is personal, very personal in fact, because it can be automated, which is human and builds familiarity fast, or they will send one specific asset that's relevant to the problem the prospect faces. So that could be a short video, a case study, a YouTube breakdown of a specific aspect of the offer, or a clarification, right? Now, the 4th pillar is to set the right expectations for the call. And this is honestly huge. Almost nobody does it, but our reps clearly frame what the call is for, what it's not for, how long it takes, and what decision is expected, right? And that there is a decision expected, and that it's not an education call. Now, in pillar 5 is to reconfirm intent before the call. Again, super simple. Right before the call, on the same day, the rep sends a short message, basically asking them if they're still good for the call and telling them that they look forward to helping them get clarity. Now, this matters because psychologically recommits them, reduces ghosting or no-shows, and makes them feel acknowledged, right? And in addition to that, we obviously have the entire pipeline built out to go high level, which basically gives us clarity on where specific leads are, saves the sales team time, and allows us as the operators to see exactly where leads are inside of every single pipeline. Now, and one last thing that is absolutely key when managing a sales team is to keep the morale high, right? Because as Jeremy Haynes is saying here, your sales team's biggest problem isn't skill, it's a story they're telling themselves, right? And then he basically goes into some story to prove it. You can read it yourself if you want or search him up on Twitter. But that's what Oscar, my boy who's managing the sales operations, is an absolute killer at, right? He talks to the sales team 24/7, basically giving them absolute fucking princess treatment. But that's exactly why we can close at 60%, right? Because the sales team is happy when they make money, we are happy when we make money, and the client's obviously happy as well. Now, in that, ladies and gentlemen, were the free back-end selling systems we use to brainwash prospects into buying 5K offers and convert at a 60% sales conversion rate. And if you're a coach or consultant watching this and you're not doing 20, 30, 40, or even 50K per month with your info offer, there'll be a link in the video description where you can book a quick 15-minute info offer audit with me and my team. We'll basically hop on a call and just analyze what the fuck is going on in your business and what the bottleneck is that prevents you from scaling to 100K per month and beyond. If it's a fit, you obviously have the option for us to come into your business and handle it for you. But that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a shit ton of value, and let's go make some money together. Peace.